Hi folks, and in today's video we're going to talk about drones because I've got quite a few drones now. Some of them do kind of, well, they all do the same job. They all fly and take photos and video, but some of them are aimed at the same thing and some aren't. And a lot of people say, you know, what's the best starter drone to buy, John? Or what's the best drone to buy for, you know, making YouTube videos or vlogging, you know, sort of travel videos or whatever? Or what is the best drone, full stop. Now the best drone, you'd probably argue I don't have it, but I can show you my best drone, which is kind of what I'm going to show you now. So I'm hopefully going to try and keep this brief. So we're going to break this down into categories really. So we're going to start off with starter drones. So you've got the Hover Air X1 or the Hover Air X1, whichever way you say it, and the DJI Neo. And these are pretty much as basic as you're going to get. In fact, the DJI Neo at about £160 doesn't even come with a controller. It's just got a series of pre-programmed functionality in it, which is pretty much the same as the Hover Air X1. They're pretty much meant as a selfie drone. They can follow you, do certain trick shots like fly around you or fly back away from you and towards you again, that kind of thing, all pre-programmed inside them and all very lightweight. The trick up the sleeve of the Hover Air X1 is that it can fold away like that, which makes it a little bit sort of more neater and a little bit more compact than the DJI Neo. So let's start off with some actual footage. This is the DJI Neo. Basically, you've seen the other side of this if you've watched my recent vlog when I talked about going out for a bike ride in the forest, and I was using the Neo just to try it out, see what I thought it was. So what we're looking at here is its stability and the colours, you know, sort of, is it actually able to deliver a representation of what I saw? So as you see, the clouds, well, they're not clouds, it's a blue sky, but for some reason half of the sky looks white, the other half looks blue, and then it's completely white again, there's hardly any blue. And as you've seen here, as we've been talking, I did more than 10-11 miles an hour on my bike and the drone just lost me. So essentially I'm not flying the drone is just tracking me, tracking my face. So it's just basically powering the drone on and going through its kind of set functionality of follow or droney or whatever, and I've just asked it to follow me. So as you switch it on, you make sure the camera's facing at you, and then you press the buttons on top that tell it to follow you. And it's kind of tracking your face or your sort of like head and shoulders. So as you can see now, it's kind of gone, oh, is that him? Is that him? Yep, that's him. Locked straight back on me. So yeah, that's one side of it that isn't so great, is the fact that it doesn't really go that fast. And again, sticking with the DJI Neo, what I'm trying to do here is obviously work out how well it can track me through light and dark areas like the forest here, as I'm moving around. So I'm not just going away fast, but I'm moving. So I turned a 90-degree left angle there, and it's, I think at the moment, trying to keep up with me, but there are issues in that the fact that it's obviously trying to avoid some of the trees. It's got no sensors on this device, it's just the camera. So not only is it trying to record everything I do to the camera right now, but it's using the camera as well to spot the obstacles that are in the way, and yeah, just not smack into them basically, which is basically what it did. It kind of saw me the last minute there. It moved the camera to the left, so it knew where I was going. I do wear bright coloured jackets and things like that as well, so it makes it easier to kind of follow me, if you like. I do stand out more against the environment I'm in to give it half a chance. But ultimately it stopped there. And what you can't see on camera now is that there were just a couple of twigs over on the right. You can probably just about see them on the edge. And it couldn't work out how to get past those. So if you see there, right, there, oh, and it's just, there you go. It's obviously able to get around things, but at times it just absolutely rams into things. Fortunately, it works for it. You see some twigs here, and just, yeah, it just pushes them out of the way. But the Hover Air X1 is about £100 more expensive than the DJI Neo. So let's go on to the Hover Air X1. Again, nice day. You can see in the background there, the blues in the skies are okay. And going from light area to dark area, that's been okay as well. So again, just looking out for how smooth it is at following me. Don't forget, this isn't really like a normal drone gimbal. Basically it can only go up and down. There's no sort of like left to right yaw movement or anything like that. So how well is it going to do at speed? I'm doing about 19 miles an hour at the moment. It's keeping track with me, no problem whatsoever. Further down the track now, I've set it up again. This was a bit more of a wooded area, and again it's sort of darker, there's no sort of direct sunlight, so it will make it harder for it to follow me, because the Hover Air is exactly like the Neo. It's got no sensors, it's using the camera to record and also track me as well. So yeah, I do stand out in the blue coat, thankfully, so it's making it easy to track me. And it is okay speed wise, keeping up with me, it doesn't lose me. But here's an obstacle. It didn't quite avoid it, but it did just go straight through it. But the Hover Air X1 has one thing that the DJI Neo doesn't, and that is the ability to go faster than about 11 miles an hour. So yeah, I'm doing around about 19-20 miles an hour here, and you'll notice the Hover Air picks up in height, so it gets higher the faster I go. So I'm just coming down to a nice fast bit now, and you'll see it start to pick up and go higher as I kind of like drop into a smaller dot in the distance, but it's keeping up with me. I'm doing about 20-22 miles an hour, 25 miles an hour at stages, and it's still not a problem keeping up with me, even through the light and the dark areas, you know, sort of open areas, and then suddenly there are lots of trees and it's darker to keep what's going on of me and the tracking and everything. The sunlight's in its lens there and everything, but it's still doing a really good job of keeping me, you know, center frame sort of thing. Both of them can be controlled via Bluetooth via the app. Most Bluetooth connectivity is around about 20 meters before it starts to drop off. So I think you can go up or fly away from you 20 meters while you're in control using the app on the phone. A few months ago, I spent some time with friends, and Darren the Urban Motorhome was there with his DJI Neo, who convinced me to buy one at the time. But essentially what we're doing in this test is just trying to work out how well each of our drones follow us. I'm using the Hover Air, Darren's using the Neo. And then we thought, well, I wonder if we walk towards each other, what the drones would do. Would the drones recognize each other? And would the drones avoid each other as well? So interesting sort of little test as how good the drones are at following. So as you can see there, Daz's drone just ignored me, my drone ignores Daz, so that's fine. They've locked onto our faces, and that's exactly what you want. You don't want your drone to lose you in the crowd of a group of people or whatever. You want your drone to recognize your face and only track your face. So yeah, quick walk around the field, generally just trying to see if we could crash the drones, or just see what we could do as far as face recognition, that kind of stuff. Just, you know, dicking around really. And there they both behaved as good as each other. As you can see from this shot, the clouds and the sky and everything in the background, there's a great deal of definition there. Again, sticking with the Hover Air, because my previous vlog I showed you how to manually control the Neo. So this is the Hover Air that I'm manually controlling via the app on the phone. So you can fly it forwards, upwards, backwards, do all that kind of stuff. And it also records the audio from your phone at the same time. So it removes the buzzing noise of the drone and records what you're saying from the mic on the phone, which I think is a pretty cool feature as well. But obviously you can get a drone view of where you are. Fly the drone up to a certain height, back away to a certain distance away from you, just like a normal drone. They both have this feature. Like I say, it's both like Bluetooth from the app. But I just wanted to show you this just so you can see that it is much like a normal drone, and it functions pretty much like a normal drone would function as well. Oh, got the little swifts and swallows dive bombing it.
Really?
So that was the audio recorded on my phone as I was flying the drone. Then you've got other built-in features. Like I said, they both have the same, which is a droney, where it flies up and over you. You can also have it fly up and away from you at an angle. And they'll also have an orbit function as well, where it just flies around you. And you can set how far and fast using a combination of the buttons. They are very similar
functions of the drone, it might almost say that one copied the other.
That's pretty much, what they are. Like I say, both 4K cameras. They both got around about 10 to 15 minutes battery life. If you just want a drone to follow you as you go walking or hiking, or cycling slowly, then they're great. Or if you want a drone that can basically take some photos of you while you're in some nice location, it just goes back, does a droney, or it circles around you, whatever, then they're both great. I'm going to keep this one in my hand for a minute though, because this one has got an extra trick up its sleeve that the Hover hasn't. And that is, if you've got another drone, or if you go out and buy a DJI controller, you can pair this. And that makes it into a proper drone. Gives it extra functionality and extra range, because the range of the controller is via sort of, an special little encrypted connection, sort of like a transmission system that DJI have got in both. So you can get like sort of half a kilometre or whatever between the two them, which makes it a bit more interesting to get interesting shots. And you can use active track, so you can track a vehicle or other such things as whatever you might think of. Bear in mind, it's still got the limitation of speed, so if you are tracking a vehicle, you can still only do sort of like 10 to 12 miles an hour, and then after that it kind of can't keep up. But you get my point, is that it turns it into a bit more of a functional drone. In addition to this controller for this drone, the Neo also supports the goggles. So you could actually turn it into an FPV drone. Put the goggles on with a little joystick controller and go buzzing around everywhere like an FPV. So whilst it's cheaper and it's a bit more limited, once you start adding the extra bits, you add extra functionality, and then you end up with some sort of hybrid, medium ground between a beginner drone and a decent-ish drone. So what else quantifies as a decent-ish sort of middle ground drone? Well, let's answer that now. Because that would fall into the category of this little bad boy, which is the DJI Mini 4 Pro. And this is technically a ultra lightweight drone still. It even says it on there, 249 grams. The Neo is much less than that, by the way, although it's not stipulated anywhere on there, but it is a very lightweight drone. So the Mini 4 Pro is a very advanced drone. Great camera on the front of it. It's got sensors all the way around it. So it's going to be able to track you. It's going to be able to fly up to around about 25-30 miles an hour. And hopefully not hit any objects while it's tracking you. So if you're flying, if you're riding through a forest and it's tracking you that way, that's pretty cool. And it comes with, but if you select it anyway, a more advanced drone controller, which means that you don't need a phone like you do in the other one. Everything is on this controller. But I'll get into controllers in a minute and I'll discuss the differences between them. But yeah, as a combo on this one, it's about £1,000. So quite a difference than the 160 quid of the Neo. But you are getting a more advanced drone.
So let's compare what the Mavic 4 Mini is like following a bike, because you've just seen the other two follow a bike, and I've told you that this one is far more advanced with better everything and sensors and all that kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, it's not in a forest, but this was back in June when Mandy and I went out for a ride, and I just wanted it to follow us on this ride. It was probably about a week old at this stage, so I'd not really used it that much, but technically I've used the same functionality because it's the same tracking function on all the DJI drones. However, this was a windy day, and as I've already stated, this drone is ultra lightweight, and as you can see, this is bobbing around left to right, up and down, in and out, trying to keep track of me because of that wind, in much the same, I would suppose, movements as the other two drones did around the forest. So whilst I can say that this drone, the Mavic 4 Mini, which I'll show you in a minute, is fantastic, if you just wanted to use it, like I said before, for tracking you while you go on a bike ride and things like that, then don't get this drone purely for that. If you want this drone to do all the other stuff, then I'll get into that in a minute. But I just wanted to show you these shots of it trying to track us as we ride down the road, which is normally quite a simple feature if you kind of set the tracking on a vehicle, it's rock solid. But on a bike, yeah, it struggles an awful lot.
Just bear that in mind, that this little bad boy can do an awful lot. It's very, very good for social media, YouTube, all that kind of stuff, as well as just going out there and having some fun, because that's part of drone life as well, for me anyway. It's just to put it up there and have some fun if you're trying to work out, where you are, what's around you, or just to get a different perspective on where you are and what's going on in the world.
So I'm not going to go into as much detail as a dedicated drone review video. Instead, what I'm trying to do is demonstrate what each drone means to me and what each drone can do as far as what I'm asking it to do. Am I making a film and I want a certain shot? Am I going out somewhere and I just want to see what's around me? So I want to go up high and have a nosy around. That's what I'm really demonstrating here. So this is the Mavic 4 Mini Pro, and I just thought I'd show you like some of the clips just to see this is a nice shot. There's different contrast between light and dark, just to get the level of detail and how it copes with it, just so you can see what sort of quality the drone can deliver as far as its camera and the stability as well. So this is a particularly cold, calm as far as wind is concerned day right now. And yeah, total bright sunlight, which photographers hate. I'd never understood that, apart from shadows, but I never understood why you wouldn't want to film in direct sunlight, because like the vibrancy and the colours of nature come out in direct sunlight. But anyway, here we are, and that's some of the shots that I've got from this little drone.
And then we move on to this little bad boy, which is a considerable bit heavy, but ultimately, most of the functionality in this has got as well. And this is the DJI Mavic 3. If I take the cover off, you can see a slight difference though. So that drone has got one little camera lens on it, which is a really good camera lens, 4K, multiple frames a second, sort of like high res, all that kind of stuff. The Mavic 3 series, well, this one has got two. Some of them have got three lenses on them. And what you've got there is a standard Hasselblad nice sensor lens. And then the little one is actually sort of more of a, it's more of a phone camera sort of thing, where you've got an option to zoom in. Fair enough, it's digital zoom, it's not optical zoom. But yeah, I think you can zoom in like 7-10 times. I don't do it much because it loses its quality somewhat.
But I've used the Mavic 3 Classic now for a number of years. I think it's coming up to about 3 years. And I love the quality of the image I get from it. I love the fact that it's very smooth. It's easy to control. The flight time, in ideal conditions, I can get 35 to 40 minutes flight time out of one battery. It's just stunning. This is 4K, so that obviously gives me an option if I'm producing a 1080 film to zoom in somewhat. But it's dynamic range, like I say, the crispness of the image, the color reproductions, all that kind of aspect that you want from a drone, especially if you're making YouTube films, videos, things like that. They're all from this drone, and it's the Hasselblad, so it's the bigger lens on the front that I'm using 99% of the time to get these images. Like I say, if you want to get the best equipment, and this is the best that I could afford, then yeah, why not? And the other aspects of flying a drone is just to get up there and see what things look like. What does the field look like from directly above? How are the trees laid out? Or it could be as simple as what's over that hill. You could be going out for a walk, or following a track or something like that to drive along, and you just want to know what's beyond it. Is it worth it? What are the obstacles that might be in your way? Are there anything like security problems you need to worry about, animals in the way or anything like that? Or do you just simply want to see if the view is worth it? And sometimes and it's awful to say this, but sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, and sometimes it spoils it. because you realise that even when you get up there, it'll never be as good as it does from the drone.
This is a big bad boy drone that'll fly for kilometers, and it'll fly for over half an hour. So it can be far away from you. Yeah, it can fly way up in the sky. It can do all sorts of things that the other stuff can do, like tracking and all that kind of stuff. It's less noisy than the other two, mainly because the props are bigger. And it won't bounce around in the wind as much as the other two, because it is bigger and heavier. It's still obviously got all the sensors, so it's got, you know, optical avoidance sensors, front and rear and below, all that kind of stuff, so it should still track you without hitting anything, theoretically. But it is a much bigger drone. But saying that, you get a much higher quality image out of it, because of the lenses on the front, and you do notice that. This is about 1800 quid, and these are all as the combo kits, as they call them, where you get extra batteries, you know, sort of like the high-end controllers, like I was saying, that, you know, that's a high-end controller because it's got the screen in it. You don't need to load your phone up, whereas on this one, basically you load your phone up in there, so the phone clamps in there, and then you've got a little cable connector that goes in the side of your phone. Phone sits in there, and that's how you view it that way. Now they're roughly the same size, so without a phone, you might argue that, you know, this one's a bit more compact, but actually I'd say this one is the compact one, because once you add a phone, this one gets quite big and bulky. You can get different mounts for them, like this one's got like a little GoPro mount, so I can mount it on the handlebars of my bike, or the dash in my van, so I can follow the drone that way. Whereas this one, you do have a special plate on the back where you can still mount it onto things, and you've also got these little screw things at the bottom there, so you can have it on like a lanyard and just have it dangling from you. But either way, they should give you a few kilometers range for flying your drone away from you. I personally think that this is a better screen than most phones are going to offer. So I've got an iPhone that I use with this one, and sometimes it's difficult to see what's going on in bright sunlight, whereas this one's much better. They've both got antennas that come up at the top, the usual things of controllers, buttons on the back for doing things, and you know, like the little sort of joysticks and all that kind of stuff. Record, change camera modes, all that kind of stuff. Yes, you could argue that once you've used this, everything's downloaded onto your phone that you've just been doing, so you've then got it straight away on your phone, you know, like the pictures or the video to upload to social media. But this one's got a great connectivity system as well, that you can connect a phone to it and download content from here to your phone. So after you've flown your drone round and you've got it all, and you've got it all stored on here, because it'll store it on the drone and here, in real time. So this one's got a little micro SD card on the bottom, and therefore everything that it receives back from the drone, it stores to that, which then allows you to upload to a phone. Whereas this one doesn't have any internal storage or anything like that, because obviously it's using the phone as the storage and controller and everything, all that, all in one go. So I just thought that I'd go through some of these drones so that you knew what drones I had. Which do I prefer to fly, and in which scenario as well. So the Neo is the latest drone that I've got of the bunch, and I was hoping that that would be better than the Hover Air X1, but I think I prefer the Hover Air X1 in all fairness, so the Neo is probably going to go back. But if you want a really cheap drone, like I say, starter drone, then it's good. It's just that I've got other drones that are slightly better, therefore there's no point having this one as well. So I'll use my Hover Air to go out on my bike and it'll follow me, but ultimately the Mini 4 Pro can also do that as well. It's just that I need a controller for that at the same time, so I need to carry that with me for, you know, sort of following me, rather than just that on my phone. And I'm always going to have my phone, so there we go. I know you're going to ask me now, which one do you prefer, John? It's odd because I think prefer is a different kind of answer to which one I use the most, because which one is more convenient. And you've probably got to say that the Mini 4 Pro is the one I would probably use the most in a bit of a rush environment. I'm going for a bike ride, or I'm just going in a little forest for a walk, or I'm just out somewhere very quickly, just want to show you what it's all about, then I would probably choose the Mini 4 Pro as my go-to drone, mainly because it's tiny, so it can fit in my pocket as I'm walking around. Yeah, fair enough, you know, I've got a controller, but actually those two fit in pockets, like coat pockets or whatever. And I can have this up and operating and everything, you know, within 60 seconds really, and it's going to capture really good quality stuff. And it's got all the functionality I need for tracking things, and you know, like the special little flight details and all that kind of stuff. And it's got good range, so I can get higher if I'm in the middle of nowhere and see what's going on around me, or travel further away from me if I want to sort of like check out places. If I'm driving somewhere and I'm like, can I make it up this track or whatever, then I can send this out there to go and have a look. And you're now going to say, well, why have you got the big Mavic 3 then, John? And the big Mavic 3, well, that's cinematic. It's got a far better camera and sort of encoding system in it, so it's going to get a much higher quality image. And if I want to get some really good cinematic shots, like sunsets, or maybe mist over water, all the things that you can think of where you really want the details, where the details are, you know, the difference between you're just looking at an image or you're going, wow, that's stunning. And most of the time, if I'm getting this drone out, it's because I've personally seen a wow, that's stunning kind of scene somewhere, and I want to get the drone out to capture that. So this is my cinematic drone. They do actually make one called the Mavic 3 Cine as well, but it was a lot more expensive, and yeah, personally, it was kind of like this was at the edge of my budget at the time, so I've stuck with this one, and I do find it to be superb. Like I say, it's got a Hasselblad lens on there, so it's a really good optics. The bit rate and everything's brilliant. The flight time is exceptional. Like I say, well over half an hour flight time. I hope I've answered all your questions. Like I say, I didn't want it to be an in-depth kind of like mega drone review or anything like that. I just wanted to answer the questions that, 3 questions really people ask. What's the best starter drone? What's the most affordable drone? And then what do you use, John? And this covers them all, doesn't it? So yeah, if you've got any questions, then ask in the comments section down below, and I'll do my very best to answer them. And yeah, I'll catch you on the next video. Take care, folks. Bye.